So you found the skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Dapper Reacts 45, more Marzulli. I am of course joined, as usual, by Vishanti. Vishanti, how you doing?
Not super great.
That is unfortunate.
I've had a headache for like 3 straight days.
Ugh.
Yeah, this week in my real life was also not super great. It's the new year, which means budget cuts and layoffs, and your girl got caught.
Yeah, not great, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
So
there's a wish list linked in the description if anyone wants to send condolences in the form of things like leather pants or books to Vishanti.
Or shoelaces.
Or shoelaces.
Yeah, I added a few things. It's mostly, I kind of forget that it's there sometimes because I don't always need stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm in a position where I might actually need stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I might just curate that a little better.
You can always put
Instead of just tossing random stuff in and forgetting about it.
You can always put giant bags of rice on there to...
Oh my god. Well, I could. Even though, like, I live directly across the street from, like, a really great
but you
Asian
know,
market.
when your income
But then I wouldn't have
goes
to pay
down,
for it, I know.
exactly, yeah.
That's the whole point.
Budget. Anyway,
Yeah.
Ben Thick Tunicate gifted 5 memberships. They went to Liska Day Babbitt, Zacuse, Caleb Draw Stuff, Tokyo the I think it's supposed to be Tiger, and a Madman, and also Ben Thick Tunicate B2022 for £2 says AIG are a bag of dicks, but spelled all backwards. So thank you very much. I'll take a drink of this drink. I'm not drinking any alcohol today because you ever go ahead and get some mixed drinks for an RPG session and realize only too late that you got the drinks that are twice as strong as you were planning on getting?
Oh.
Yep.
That's not happened to me, but okay. I see where you're going.
Yeah, so I'm not hungover, but I'm also not really up for drinking today. So
yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, that was more than enough for like the weekend.
Yeah. I'm not even sure if like my headache is weather related because now it's starting to actually get like cold overnight and I don't super do great in cold weather, but I don't know whether it could be a tension headache, stress, you know, it could be all the above.
I mean,
who knows?
There's
just
been plenty of
spin
stress.
the wheel and pick a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so there was a quick question from DM pour out one vegan nog for my homie's wing, who said, "Is it still Christmas?" It is currently not Christmas, but it is old calendar Christmas Eve. So at sunset tonight, it will be Christmas for those people who follow the old calendar for their liturgical calendar. I guess I should probably give a quick breakdown of what that means, because it's kind of interesting, right? So you know how every 4 years...
some people may not know the difference between, like, the Julian and Gregorian calendars and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so, like, you know, every 4 years there's a leap year, right? But did you know that 1900 was not a leap year? Even though it's on the 4-year cycle? Well, that's because, basically, Pope Gregory... he noticed that the dates of the equinoxes were drifting ever farther away from their traditional dates, based on, you know... well, actually, it was probably his astronomers who figured this out, because in case you guys don't know, the Vatican has had astronomers for a very long time, and they're very high-quality astronomers. They actually own some telescopes not far from me, so I can go see a Vatican telescope just by going up the hill. Well, it's a mountain, but it's a smallish mountain. Anyway, not important. So he had some mathematicians and some astronomers get together, and they figured that they could fix this by, 1, just changing the date, basically, and then 2, changing the rule so that years that end in 00 aren't leap years unless they're divisible by 400, which means that's why 2000 was a leap year, but 2100 won't be a leap year. Okay. So then this change started kind of promulgating its way throughout like the Christian parts of the world, specifically the Western Christian parts, right? So the parts that were Catholic. But of course, along comes things like the Protestant Reformation and makes it a little bit complicated. So a lot of Protestant countries weren't big fans of changing the calendar, mostly because they just saw it as some kind of popish invention designed to trick them out of their days of the calendar or something. Which, I mean,
you give those 10 days back.
Yeah, there were riots about it. There were actual riots about it, like, we want our 10 days back. But anyway, it eventually then, as a result of kind of European hegemony worldwide, as a result of, the great success Europe had in being a bunch of colonizing dickbags, kind of spread to be just kind of the default calendar. But there were a number of Christian groups, especially Eastern Christian groups, like Oriental and Eastern Orthodox Christians, who did not ever adopt the new calendar for their church calendar, and continue to this day to use the older Julian calendar. And so, for them, this is currently December 24th on that old calendar, because of the lack of, or they're always using the leap years. So, yeah. So that is why today is Christmas Eve in some places like Russia or parts of Greece and some other, I'll say a bunch of Slavic places. So, Yep. So that is why it is both the day after Christmas and Christmas Eve today, depending on what church is like the main church in the place where you grew up. So for most of my viewers, that's going to mean it's not Christmas. Anyway, yeah. So there you go. It is both January 6th and December 24th on different calendars. But we're here for L.A. Marzulli. L.A. Marzulli is, well, I guess he is a Christian, although he's probably one of those new calendar Christians, because, I mean, I've never heard of an old calendar Protestant. I don't think that exists anymore.
I wonder if there are any. I mean, there probably are, just statistically, but they definitely don't seem to be making themselves known.
There's some little group of Puritans somewhere out in like the backwoods of New Hampshire that just never really got the memo on the new calendar.
Yeah.
Maybe. I guess it's possible. All right. But he is someone who has integrated basically every single conspiracy theory you've ever heard of into his weird brand of Protestant Christianity. Like Bigfoot, UFOs, North American giants, Atlantis, you name it. It's all there. DM, pour out one vegan nog for my homies man for $5 says, for F's sakes, the Doctor has regenerated 6 times. It's been Christmas so long. Godzilla. Yeah, it turns out any given year will have exactly 28 days worth of Christmas if you include all of the Christmas days that anyone is celebrating. So,
as I mentioned to Dapper before the stream started, every day's Christmas if you do calendars wrong enough.
Also true. All right, so we're gonna hit play now that we have Question et le déluge de Noé avec la Marzulli. And we're gonna start with the question before we get to le déluge, which apparently is a masculine word. Hey, French, come on, cut that out. That should be
another example of the nonsensical language that is modern French.
Yeah, modern French is it's almost as chaotic as English.
At least it's not ultra French.
And this is from Belinda. I love listening to you. We live in a very small town in South Africa in the Western Cape area. About 3,000 people. We have a beautiful river flowing into the sea. Often some objects are seen, mostly at night, flying up and down the river.
Okay, this sounds like the start to The Whisperer in Darkness from Lovecraft. Have you read that one? It starts out.
Oh man, yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Starts out with like people seeing like weird alien bodies in the river, and everyone's like, "Nah, it's probably just a dog or something." It's like, oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Best explained, it looks like blue bullets. No idea what that could be. The length seems to be about 60 centimeters long. My son is a drone pilot and doesn't seem to think that this could be drones. Other objects have been seen here as well. People describe it as UFOs.
Nathaniel, 3,000-year-old Neolithic granite gray for $2 says in German it is Mr. Skirt, and I don't know why. What is Mr. Skirt? I'm not sure which thing. But yeah, no, I love that name though. 3,000-year-old Neolithic granite. Yeah, in case you guys haven't seen the first one of these, L.A. Marzulli seems to think that it was the Neolithic 3,000 years ago, which is extremely not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been seen by a number of people, mostly at night. I guess my question is, have you ever heard of blue bullet-like objects before? We do not know what to make of it. Well, Belinda, thanks so much for the kind words, and thanks so much for writing in. These are what I would call rods, and people have photographed them and looked at them. This sounds to me, without seeing a picture, but just based on what you're saying, the blue, the night.
Oh, the gendered word for skirt. Yeah, okay, skirt is masculine in German. Yeah, okay. Yeah, German can be weird like that too. Like, I believe the general word for girl, like, you know, a subadult female person, is neuter. Because it sounds like a neuter word.
Oh.
So they're just like, yeah, it's neuter. It's like, okay, but that's the exact kind of word that you would want to be feminine. Like, that, don't worry about it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Asta 1 Marzulli equals 10 Hovens Ryu for $1.99. US says 67 centimeters. That's one hell of an AIG girth. We'll take a drink. I'm just going to take a drink of this caffeinated beverage. Okay, so do you know about the phenomenon of rods? In like weird UFO circles?
The phenomena, what now?
Rods. What he's talking about here.
Clarify.
Okay, so in some photographs or videos, sometimes people catch these things that look like these long, sinuous objects that have like a wavy membrane down their length, right? And there's all this thought about like, oh, well, maybe they're aliens who are slightly out of phase with reality that can fly through the air or something, and or some kind of UFO phenomenon or something. That's what he's talking about. What they actually are is a combination of the fact that sometimes insects fly fast and that you don't have infinite shutter speed.
Oh, yeah. They're light streaks.
Yeah, they're just insects being blurred across a frame. That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, but maybe it's an extra-dimensional centipede-like flying creature from Zeta Reticuli. Like, or maybe it's just a flying grasshopper. Yeah. It's like, nope, no, definitely not. These guys are seeing blue glowing rods in South Africa that are definitely not just bugs. Yeah. DM Pearl 1 vegan dog for my homie says, oh my god, rods, effing love rods. Yeah. So here's the thing. There are certain kinds
Second only to orbs.
Yeah, orbs. I generally divide like this conspiracy nonsense craziness into two camps. There's the stuff that's like really harmful and usually racist or anti-Semitic, right? And that comes down to like anyone who's mentioning like the globalists.
Yeah.
And then there's like the kind of fun, somewhat lighthearted stuff like Bigfoot and rods. Because like, no one's going to go like do some kind of crime at a synagogue because like they think they saw Bigfoot, right? Right? Like you don't get that, right? No one's like, oh man, those darn Jews are putting 8 men in the forest. Like that doesn't happen.
I don't know, man. I think they saw like the werewolf bar mitzvah thing and went, oh my god, there's actual werewolves, and they
spooky scary.
Werewolf mitzvah.
The extended
Boys
version
becoming
of
men. Men becoming wolves.
If you haven't seen Werewolf Bar Mitzvah, go look it up. It's pretty great.
Oh man, it's great.
Heather Shawgots are smarter than Roger Kuhn for $5 says, if I have to guess, the only reason deluge ends in an E is so the G is soft, ergo not feminine. Yeah, that's probably. I mean, you're probably right. I still want it to be feminine though. Anytime a masculine noun in French ends in E, it like scratches at the inside of my brain. I don't like it. I mean, look, I'm not in charge of French, right? That's some other group of guys who also people don't listen to very much. Like, good luck finding an actual Frenchman who's going to say le fin de la semaine instead of le weekend. Yeah. Or le compact disc back when CDs were still a thing. And yeah, like the French, the people who were actually in charge of French were like, no, it's compact disc. And everyone's like, no, it's CD.
Sure, buddy.
CD. No, you can't say CD. That's an American loan word. No one cared.
Yeah, they're just like, no, that won't stand.
As to 1 Marzulli equals 10 Hoven's Ryu for 199 says, wait, grasshoppers can fly? New fear unlocked. Yes, they can fly. They don't tend to fly very far, but they can. However, when they enter their locust phase, which is locusts are just grasshoppers, right? That have entered a different life phase as a result of various environmental conditions. Then they can fly miles. Just miles and miles. So, yep. Pibble Punk, half dog, half canine. For $2 says, AIG is a bag of mysterious rods. Yes, that's true. That's very true. All right, let's see what LA has for us about rods. Because we only have 11 minutes of video to get through today. I think we can do it.
They are rods, and they seem to just be under some sort of intelligent control.
Of course.
But other than that, no one really knows.
I guess by intelligent control, if you mean like the insect brain that is piloting the insect through the air, then yes, that is technically correct. They are under intelligent control.
What they are. But they are called rods.
No, everyone knows what they are. Everyone who bothers to look into this has figured this out, LA. But that's not a fun answer for you, right? That doesn't allow you to worry about spiritual warfare or the Nephilim or anything. So you're like, no, it can't just be insects that are captured on camera.
And they are seen not only where you are, but in other places as well. This is from Chris. What is your take on Q?
I thought that's his whole answer. It's like, yeah, it's probably rods. All right, bye, Belinda. Oh.
Yeah, really.
QAnon, and is it demonic?
Oh,
I'm not going.
Is QAnon demonic? I mean, it's really dumb, and it's in that other category of like crazy conspiracies that I don't like. You know, the kind that leads people to commit like actual crimes, like sticking up a pizza place that doesn't have a basement because maybe there's kids that are being held captive in the basement that are being harvested for adrenochrome. Yeah, that's the category of crazy conspiracy stuff that QAnon is in. Do you actually? I don't remember. Is LA a QAnon fan or is he a QAnon skeptic?
He's definitely into some of that.
Okay, well, let's see what he says.
His
about
blog posts from especially like 2021, because he was all up on the January 6th insurrection stuff. Which, by the way, unhappy anniversary to that.
Yeah, that was today, 3 years ago. 4 years ago. Wait, 3... Yeah, 3 years ago. Because it was 2021. Because of the 2020 election cycle. I can math. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Look, I'm a dinosaur. I don't even get a vote. So, yeah.
To answer that on our YouTube channel, I'm just going to pass on that. You can think of whatever you want to think about Q. I will just say this. I do not follow him.
Coward. Because here's the thing, right? He knows that if he takes any stance, it's going to anger some significant portion of his audience, right?
He believes most of the conspiracies that QAnon puts forth. He just doesn't want to say that he's an official QAnon follower, because that's technically one dude. Like, we know it's 2 or 3, but he still believes in, like, all the conspiracies.
Does he think the storm is coming?
He just blames it on, like, oh, it's Illuminati, or it's interdimensional alien whatevers. It's like,
of course.
Stop.
There was a question as to what is QAnon. So basically, QAnon is a conspiracy theory based on a series of posts to... Was it 4chan originally?
Yeah. Okay. And then it went to 8chan.
Yeah, then it went to 8chan, because 8chan is the 4chan of 4chan. Which is 4chan the Richard Carrier of websites?
That might be 8kun.
Oh, okay. There's too many Japanese honorifics out there. So anyway, yeah, and he was going on about stuff like, oh, there's going to be, like, Donald Trump is actually leading a secret coup against the deep state, who are actually a bunch of Satan-worshipping child torturers, and there were all these things like, there were all these like cryptic messages that people were trying to decode, and there was this whole idea that like eventually what's going to happen is there's going to be like mass arrests of Democratic politicians with a big D, in the United States, and they're all going to be put on trial for their crimes against humanity and specifically children, and and they're hiding children in the basement of this pizza place that, like, outside DC, that doesn't have a basement that could be used to hide children in the first place. All this stuff. And, like, none of the predictions have come true. There have been so many dates when the mass arrests were supposed to take place and all this stuff. And
oh yeah, the storm was supposed to have come and gone long time ago.
So and it's also been associated with the people who, did things like storm the Capitol on this date 3 years ago. And the 45th president of the United States himself has been using QAnon believers and, like, mentioning things that they believe in sort of, like, dog whistly ways, so it's not too obvious if you don't know what QAnon is. Like, if you're not aware of that, it just sounds like he's talking, like, a little bit weird. But then if you're, like, somewhat familiar with QAnon, you're like, oh no, that's just a QAnon thing, right? That's the one Marzulli equals 10 Hovens Ryu for 199 says, so wait, QAnon isn't related to the Q continuum. Well, we can't say that for certain, right? Because we don't know who Q is, or was originally, for certain, because it's anonymous, right? So maybe it is John Delancey. Just typing away. I mean, I can't prove it's not John Delancey. I suppose I could hire him on Cameo to say, I am Q. He probably wouldn't even recognize what I was doing at that point. All right, here we go.
Let's move right along. This is from Landon. Several ancient cultures, including the most straightforward reading of Genesis, record the global flood as occurring around 3000 BC. The Younger Dryas flood seems to have occurred.
There is no such thing as the Younger Dryas flood. The Younger Dryas was a period of relatively rapid sea rise. But do you know what the average annual sea rise was during the period of the Younger Dryas per annum?
Dude, yeah, it's relatively fast in geologic time is not relatively fast in human lifespan time.
Yeah, the increase rate was like 1.5 centimeters or so a year. That means that, like, over your lifetime, if you live to be like 80, you would see the sea level rise a few meters. Which, sure, that might mean that your village would have to pick up stakes and move, right? Because the lowest lying parts might end up being inundated over the course of your entire lifetime. But that's not a flood. You're not going to get trapped by that. You're not going to wake up one day with a tidal wave just coming crashing onto you. It means, like, eventually you're going to, like, your house is going to be like, oh, my house at high tide is now getting wet. Maybe I'll move.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no Younger Dryas flood. It's not what happened. It looks very dramatic if you look at it on a graph and ignore the timescale. But, you could just not ignore the timescale. This is another thing that Graham Hancock is on about, right? He doesn't actually ever give you the numbers for, like, annual increase in sea level over the course of the Younger Dryas. He just tells you that it was this very rapid period of sea level rise, which is technically true compared to most other periods in, recent geological history. But, like, and then he just uses these dramatic words and just kind of leaves you to imagine catastrophic biblical proportion flooding, when in fact it's more like what's happening to Venice right now. Where it's like, oh man, St. Andrew's Square is currently underwater because it's high tide. That sucks. Yeah, but, like, you're not hearing about, like, mass destruction in Venice and people getting trapped in the canals as the waves sweep through. Like, no, they're probably just going to have to eventually abandon Venice because it's probably not going to stay above water for all that many years, right? Like, it sucks, but, like, it's not a flood. Also, hey, before the whole city sinks, maybe you should give those horses back to Constantinople, Venice. I don't know. Just a thought. The horses, that you stole from Constantinople during a crusade. Yeah, give them back.
Around 10,000 BC. Do you think the Younger Dryas catastrophe could have been God's judgment on the fallen angels by extension?
Those are some very slow-moving angels.
Yeah, no kidding.
I like the idea that these angels are like, they're like Ents from Lord of the Rings. They're just super slow. So, like, the sea level rising like half an inch a year is actually a problem for them.
Yeah.
This could mean that the structures, like the Giza pyramids and their likely original purpose as energy generators, are remnants of the angels' earthly
No, of course they're
culture.
energy generators.
I I love how we went from the younger Dryas is a catastrophic biblical flood sent against the fallen angels, and then suddenly also, and of course the pyramids are energy generators. It's like,
I mean, it's literally going to just be a checklist of all the conspiracies.
oh my favorite thing about the pyramids being energy generators is like, okay, so build a small scale pyramid and make it generate energy. We know what the pyramids are made of, right? Like, this shouldn't be a problem.
Mythbusters already did that. Spoiler alert, they don't generate power.
What? You mean a whole bunch of rocks stacked up so that they get smaller as they go up don't just, like, generate power out of
See,
nothing?
it was built on top of an underground water source, and, you know, because of the movement of the water, something, tidal forces, something, electricity, something.
The fearmonger, fearmonger, the anti-Marzulli, says, afraid they can't anymore. The horse owners will be waiting in Istanbul. It's true, you can't go back to Constantinople. Constantinople got the works. And that's nobody's business but the Turks.
Yep.
Man,
well, I am actually endowed with a letters patent that I could repel some Ottoman Turks, so if you find any...
But don't they have to be, like, outside of Turkey invading somewhere? Like, does that allow you to just go to Turkey and just go... mess around? No.
I mean, no, I'm just saying, like, if, you know, you happen to be walking through Venice, or waiting through Venice at this point, and, you know, you just happen across some Ottoman Turks, just call me up and I'll repel them for you.
On horseback?
Potentially on horseback.
Okay.
Depends on the resources.
All right. So you might not have your own horse, you might need one provided for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna go quicker if someone gives me a horse, but, you know.
Just remember, I believe you're sworn to protect the churches of Transylvania or something, aren't you? From the Ottoman Turks?
I mean,
yeah,
and there's also, like, defunct baronies and kingdoms in, like, Hungary and all of that area that just kind of don't really exist anymore. And
we should refunct them.
Yeah. We can refunct them. I mean, it's just, you know, modern geopolitics. It's lines on a map.
Yeah, that's lines on paper. And if there's one thing that I've learned from Uncle Kent, it's that lines on paper never actually matter.
Yeah, and we're just going to default back to the, you know, natural boundaries of things like mountains and rivers, because that worked for people for thousands of years. Yeah. So...
Arathamian for $10 says, maybe the energy was generated by burning the grains the pyramid stored. Oh, yeah. That was Ben Carson's idea. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's so dumb.
Oh, man. Look, I'm not a big fan of, like, people giving politicians cutesy names, but when someone called him, like, Tired or Sleepy Ben or something like that, I was like, yeah, no, he always looks like he's about to fall asleep. Always. He's always, like, looking down and you can barely see his eyes. He's always speaking super slowly and boringly with a monotone voice about how maybe the pyramids were built by Joseph with the multicolored coat as a store of grains for the famine.
I'm really... It's worse than an NPR announcer. Makes the NPR guys sound like a freaking morning radio jockey.
Yeah. But, look, if there's one thing I can say for Ben Carson, he has certainly made me reassess one of the major assumptions of my life, which is that you have to be very smart to be a world-leading neurosurgeon. Apparently, that's just not true.
Yeah, that's just not true.
Yeah. Apparently, just any old idiot can do it. You just have to really, really work at it. So...
Really good point.
Just because you're smart in one area doesn't mean you're smart in all the areas.
Yeah, that's actually what that actually means, right? Is that, yeah, he clearly has some serious skills and brain power in the area of neurosurgery, because he's absolutely no controversy about this. He is a world-famous neurosurgeon who did amazing things, world firsts, many of them, but he's also a complete moron basically about everything else, so.
Yeah.
Landon, and I think that Noah's flood goes further back than 3,000 years.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Oh my.
So I think LA is like he's like a medium Earth creationist, right? Like he's not quite an old Earth, because I don't think he's okay with the billions of years, but he seems to think...
he doesn't believe in a lot of that.
Yeah, but he seems to think that like the typical YEC timeline is too short. So...
Yeah, he's like a middle Earth creationist. I think that would be a good term.
So we need to go send some hobbits to go get him? Maybe those Ents that were worried about the younger Dryas flood can go get L.A. Marzulli.
Yeah, really.
I think it goes way back. I hold to the 10,000 year model.
That's not that much
Because his
farther
buddy
back.
Brian Forster thinks that.
Oh, okay. Is that why? All right.
Yeah, because they're all obsessed. All of them are obsessed with the whole like, oh, the younger Dryas is a flood boundary. It's part of their whole shtick.
Okay.
As when something incredibly cataclysmic, i.e. Noah's flood, wiped everything out.
Oh, okay, so he thinks the flood was 10,000 years ago, and then creation would have been before
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he thinks
Okay.
that all the flood legends are based on a real event that happened around 10,000 years ago or however long.
Okay.
So it's weirdly inconsistent how he thinks that there are some things in the Bible that are literally true, but there's other things where it's like, nah, this was like much older than that. It's just like, dude, pick a lane.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
On the planet. And then there's this, I mean, when you think about it, you know, mankind kind of goes like this. It's pretty much
LA, have you
flatlined
ever
till
really honestly thought about it?
I very much doubt it.
Gutenberg's printing press. Then it goes up. And
What is the it that's going up? Is it the population? Because that doesn't track with the printing press. Is it like abstract levels of consciousness like Jordan from Spirit Science goes on about? Like what is it what's the thing that's going up in his mind? Do you know?
Rewind it. Maybe
Okay.
he clarified.
We'll rewind it a little bit.
it's pretty much flatlined until Gutenberg's printing press, Noah's flood, wiped everything out on the planet. And then there's this, I mean, when you think about it, you know, mankind kind of goes like this. It's pretty much flatlined until Gutenberg's printing press. Then it goes up. And that's
So
like, you know,
the
16,
population of
1600.
Earth. Okay.
Well, maybe he's doing like technological advancement, like that horrible The Chart thing that every once in a while you see, like brain dead
yeah.
online atheists post. We're talking about like the technological level of humanity, and there's the gap left by the Dark Ages. I of course prefer the extended chart that includes things like the Hyper-Korean War from 14,000 years ago, and how if not for the Hyper-Korean War, we could be exploring the outer reaches of the singularity by now.
Whatever. And then until modernity, until the Industrial Revolution, things are pretty much flatlined. And then in the Industrial Revolution, all these inventions begin to happen.
Then maybe he is talking about population, because I mean that is when the population really took off. Because
Oh yeah, Fearmonger, the anti-Marzulli says, "Oh yeah, it's almost like no one's a biblical literalist."
Yeah,
and then
no one.
Nathaniel Gray, the 3,000-year-old Neolithic granite, says, "Are you familiar with the Cactusverse in SCP?" I am not. There are some things about like greater SCP lore that I'm not as familiar with. Like I'm aware of things in the deeper lore, like the different warring factions that are fighting the Foundation. But there's a lot of stuff outside of just the entries that I'm like,
Is the Cactusverse a like one of those shared continuities? Or is it a tale? Like what is what category? Is it an article?
Like,
Asta 1 Marzulli equals 10 Hovens Ryu for 199 says, this guy must like Graham of Ancient Apocalypse. They're certainly traveling in a lot of the same types of like nonsense. But I think Graham is more... He's less biblical in his ideas, right? Like he doesn't really reference the Bible. Instead, sorry, he's mostly Atlantis and also on the DL white supremacy. And L.A. Marzulli is much more about like the spiritual aspects and how this all ties into the Bible. Whereas I don't think Graham really cares about how it ties into the Bible at all. Yeah. He's much more into Atlantis plus low-key white supremacy. Because, the people from Atlantis had to be white, obviously. Because, fun fact, almost all of Graham Hancock's ideas can be traced right back to the Thule Society, which was a German conspiracy theory society, basically, that were big supporters of things like archaeology and a particular political party, which itself also then went on to fund more archaeology in, the early 20th century. and also gave a whole lot of the intellectual framework for German politics in like the 1930s and 40s. And if you haven't filled in the gaps there, then I don't know. You just didn't pay attention in high school or something for history class. So yeah, that's where a lot of Graham Hancock's ideas trace right back to, is that. Pipplepunk, half dog, half canine for $5 says, so the younger Dryas was a catastrophic flood, but modern climate change is totally nothing to worry about. Yeah, that is a good point, is that, yeah, in many places in the world, the sea rise is currently faster than the younger Dryas. Not in every place, right? There are places where, because, hey, did you know the sea level isn't the same everywhere? It actually changes in different places at different rates. So,
oh yeah, and that's Nathaniel Gray was saying, I think if we work at it, we can convince LA it's real.
yeah, maybe. We might be able to.
Like people convince Roger about the mystery flesh pit.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, he convinced himself. He had to be talked out of it by his audience. His audience were the ones who were like, no, man, this is just an art project. Coca-Cola did not make an aphrodisiac flavor from kaiju sex juice in like the 1980s, Roger. A time you remember, Roger. That's my favorite part about that.
The Exploring Series playlist has it as a primer. Oh, that's why. It's because the only SCP channel I watch is the Vulcan. That's probably why I missed it. I think I watched a few Exploring Series before, but I just didn't like get fully into it. But I can go back and check that out since you recommend it.
Okay. Yeah, I might have to check that out too. All right, here we go.
And then into modernity, we see the elevator, refrigeration, the automobile, the combustible.
Yeah, no, I think he means technology level, not population, but it's very unclear.
The combustible engine, the refining of gasoline, the makings of plastic, aviation. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. All the modern convenience that we enjoy come from, in the last really 150 years, which...
Not all of it. There were, like... Sometimes I cook over wood fires. That's been happening for at least probably hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah. So take that, LA. But yeah, he is right that most of the conveniences we take for granted nowadays wouldn't have been around 150 years ago. And yeah, there was a giant explosion in human technology. And you know what that is the result of? It's this thing called science, right? People deciding that empiricism, falsification, careful note-taking, reproducibility of experiment, that these were going to be how we advanced our knowledge of the natural world, rather than just kind of sitting around and thinking about it until we came to a conclusion that seemed right to everyone. Because it turns out that no matter what the Bible says, maybe you shouldn't just have a situation where everyone does what seems right in his own eyes. Take that, judges. I know. I just wanted to make a biblical allusion to the Book of Judges. Can I do that?
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Thank you.
Which is absolutely mind-blowing, which ties back into the prophetic, in my opinion. Men will run to and fro over the face of the earth, and knowledge will increase, which is where we are now. So I'm...
Okay. Science happened.
He's going to throw in Daniel. It's like, okay.
Yeah. That's one of those prophecies where it's just like, okay, but that's always been the case, right? Like... Yeah.
I'm just going to end with that I hold to a 10,000-year-old flood. I could be wrong. No one really knows.
Yes, LA, you could be wrong.
Yeah, we do.
We do, in fact. There was
we
never
know
a
it didn't
flood.
happen.
Yeah, there was... goodness.
But all of this is very new. It certainly isn't millions and millions of years of mindless evolution. So we were on the beach...
Yeah.
It's like, well, we all know it just wasn't evolution, so yeah, okay.
I don't know how it got here, but definitely wasn't, the way that science and the scientific process has figured it out,
Well, I know how it got here. You see, when an angel and a human love each other very much, sometimes they make a Nephilim.
Yesterday, low tide was out -1. So it's way out, and it was beautiful. It was like 65, 67, and we went to...
TM401 Vegan Knock for my homies wing says, science? We get knowledge from psychic tree folk? Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Yes.
You have unlocked the puzzle. David says, no Steamboat Willie Dapper Dinosaur. Kip, if I do a Steamboat Willie, it's going to take a few days to actually get that set up. There's not going to be like a quick automated Steamboat Willie Dapper, which is a thing I'm thinking about doing, right? Because, you know, when I get the fundraising for a special avatar, I put out a poll as to what avatar I should use. And I might make a Steamboat Willie avatar that's literally just Mickey Mouse from Steamboat Willie. Because I can do that. Because of public domain. And put that on the list. And if people vote for it, I'd use Steamboat Willie. But we are quite a ways away from the next special avatar video. So, Fearmonger, the anti-Marzulli for 69 secs. Thank you very much. That is probably the best super chat I've ever had. Or at least in terms of amount and denomination. Roger not remembering the national catastrophe of closely resembles Egypt not seeming to notice that a global flood that should have been happening. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Roger didn't notice a giant kaiju waking up in Texas the same way that the Egyptians just didn't notice the catastrophic global flood that drowned all of them.
To the beach, we set up a lawn chairs, or beach chairs, I should say, and I'm in shorts with a t-shirt on, and Peggy's next to me, we have an umbrella up, and the sun was like right in front of us. It was just magical, and of course, low tide, people walking up and down, just magical.
Does this have a point? Because I probably should have cut this out, because I don't remember if this has a point or not.
And there was this one
It's just
bird.
rambling.
I forget what it's called.
There was one thing that I cut out where he went on and on about like how after he became a Christian, his girlfriend moved out because she didn't approve of him wanting to like not have sex anymore or something. And she took all of her furniture and he didn't have a bed anymore. And then he read the Bible and like, I'm like, what is happening? Why is this here?
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, it was.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It might be a spoonbill, but I could be wrong. The beak is literally, the bird's only this big.
Okay.
The beak is almost as big as the bird.
Nice.
So Peggy goes, my gosh, how did that happen? Well, honey, I'll tell you. That bird was having trouble digging down into the sand, and so what he decided to do is he put a request into the Evolutionary Board. And of course, evolution was just...
an onion to our belt, which was the style at the time.
Yeah, basically. And also, of course, you gotta love it when someone's like, well, I know it wasn't evolution, and then they try to describe evolution, and it's absolutely nothing that even approximates what evolution actually is.
Yeah, that's pretty standard, honestly.
It really is. It really, really is. Yeah, it's just like if someone's like, well, I don't believe in gravity, and you're like, okay, well, why do things fall? And I'm like, well, I think angels push things down.
Okay.
Oh, and how do you think gravity is supposed to work? Well, that's demons pushing things down. That's why I don't believe in it. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well then, I mean, I guess
Solved
I can't
it.
argue. There we go. Gravity is fake, and it's angels, not demons. Got it.
mindless thing that just evolves over millions of years and said, you know, Mr. Evolution, I need a longer beak. Can you please get me one? So just like that, magically,
Mr.
decided
Evolution.
to...
Yeah, you know, creationists love to accuse, like, people who aren't crazy of, like, inappropriately personifying evolution. And yet I never hear anyone personify evolution as strongly as I hear anti-evolutionists personify it. Like, they will go on and on about how, like, oh, so evolution knows what's happening. It has some kind of foresight. It's like, no one has ever said that. That's the opposite of what we all say. Like, oh, sounds like it's just a replacement for God. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, I guess.
Sure, buddy.
Yeah. In the same way that, like, you know, the germ theory of disease is a replacement for God because then it means that strep throat isn't actually divine punishment. It's just an infection. I guess technically in that way you can say it's a replacement for God. I guess. I bet you're still going to take those antibiotics next time you get a throat infection, though, huh?
Yep.
Yes, we're going to give you a longer beak, Mr. Bird. Hold on, it might take 1,000,000 years, but we'll get to it. Seriously? Because of the...
No, not seriously, dude.
Mr. Evolution.
I love that seriously, as if he's actually laid out how evolution works. It's like, LA, no one believes in evolution in that way because it's your straw man that you created. You don't get to be like, how could anyone believe the straw man I made up? Because it's your straw man you made up. The same thing happened with the video I just put out for early access, where this person is she's complaining about how incomplete this chart of fossil cetaceans is. It's like, you chose the chart. You could have picked a better chart. You didn't. I don't care about your complaints that this particular chart you cherry-picked doesn't have enough paleo taxa on it. It's the same thing. It's like, dude, you made up the ridiculous example. You made up the straw man. I'm not going to own it. It's on you. You're the one being ridiculous, not me.
DNA, the coding, which is in every living organism, that bird can reproduce to the second coming, which, by the way, might be sooner than we all think, but
Okay.
Okay, man.
Buckle up for the incoming parousia, everyone.
Yeah.
digress. That bird can reproduce to the second coming, and guess what? He's always going to get the same exact bird, unless something...
You think he's noticed that,
Oh,
that mutations are an observed phenomenon, and that, in fact, you can get novel traits in animals as a result? You think LA has ever heard of the Sphinx cats, you know, the hairless cats that are the result of a, like, 20th century mutation that never existed before?
this is just his version of Kent Hovind's, well, dog's never gonna produce their own dog.
Yep, it is.
negative impacts the genome, and then we'll get some...
Oh, he's going into genetic entropy, too. Fun. He's hitting, like, a lot of, like, the creationist, like, all-star themes, but he's doing it even worse than they usually do, because clearly he's not someone who studied even creationist versions of literature. He's just, like, heard these things. He's like, yeah, that sounds about right. And then he just gives us his, like, badly misremembered version of young Earth creationist talking points. DM, pour out one vegan nog for my homie's wing for $2, says, turtles are the best tetrapod, followed by just a mess of turtle emojis. Well, thank you very much. I cannot confirm that they are the best tetrapod, but I will not deny it.
something that is not good, okay? We know that.
Oh,
just look at the babies born in and around Chernobyl.
Jeez, man. Okay. So, it is the case that any given mutation is more likely to be harmful than it is to be helpful in any given environment, right? Which is why the mutation rate itself is something that can evolve, right? Like, if we take a look at the Lenski long-term E. coli experiment, right? That's been running for decades, with just different samples of E. coli being put in a particular environment, and just seeing how they evolve in that environment. There are certain strains of that are what's called hypermutator strains, where they have an insanely high mutation rate. And that's because they can get to population sizes that are big enough that it means that some of them are going to fall into a high fitness area on the fitness landscape for the experiment, because they just mutated there, and then they are going to reproduce. And so high mutation rates are a good thing in that particular situation. But there are mutation rates that are too high, because the random scattering that you're going to get from your current location on the fitness landscape is very likely to end up in troughs, because in actual real-world fitness landscapes, troughs are more common than peaks. You're more often, more of the morphospace is down in the low fitness areas. In those cases, you're going to evolve low mutation rates, because most of the mutations are going to take you away from peak fitness. Mutation rate itself is evolvable. Now, the fact that in places with high radiation, the mutation rate for many organisms might be higher than is optimal isn't evidence against evolution. That's completely in line with the predictions of things like population genetics and the evolvability of the mutation rate itself. Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine for $2 says, Mr. Evolution, the arch nemesis of Mr. Deity. Now I'm picturing them as, like, two different, like, superheroes. One's decked out in, like, you know, like golden holy symbols and whatnot, and the other one is, like, just got a bunch of transitional fossils as, like, armor. Like, he's got some like Dorudon skulls as, like, shoulder pads, and he's got, like, Archaeopteryx wings to fly with or something, and they're just fighting each other in a comic book. I want to see that. That sounds like fun.
The babies born after Hiroshima or Nagasaki, okay? Birth defects happen. So that DNA, that coding, is in every living organism. We don't, just show me one species that is becoming something else.
Okay, cool. I'll go with one of my favorite examples, which is the difference between hawthorn berry flies and apple maggot flies. So both of these are members of the same genus, and currently they're still given the same specific designation, which is to say they're one species. The way this fly species reproduces is it lays its eggs in flowers, and then as those flowers are pollinated and, start to turn into fruit, because case you skipped biology on that day, fruit comes from flowers. Flowers turn into fruit after fertilization. Then the maggots eat the fruit inside, from the inside, right? Okay, well, hawthornberry flies, you'll never guess which flowers they tend to lay their eggs on. Would you care to guess, Vishanti, what kind of flowers hawthornberry flies lay their eggs on?
Hawthorn apples?
Well, hawthorn bushes, but yeah.
Bushes,
Yeah.
sorry.
And apple maggot flies lay their eggs on... Get a guess? For the apple?
Apples.
Yep, apple flowers.
Yeah.
Apple tree flowers. So, apple trees were only introduced into North America in the 1700s. I think it was 1760. If I remember correctly, I might not, though. So, don't write down 1760 on a test or something as a result of me saying it today. Double check. Anyway, so a minister from England brought some apple seedlings to Massachusetts, where he planted the first ever apple trees in North America. Now, the hawthorn maggot fly is in fact a North American fly. It had never encountered apples. There are relatives of the apple that live in North America, but it wasn't parasitizing those. And they also weren't quite as good a food source as the domesticated apple, which is, artificially absurdly good for nutrition, because humans bred it that way. So, now you have currently, right now, in North America, two very similar fly groups, but hawthorn bushes and apple trees flower at different times. As a result, the two populations now mate at different times, and there is only very limited gene flow between them. And so they are currently undergoing a process called Sympatric speciation, in which a population diverges into two species without physically separating from each other geographically. When they do separate geographically, it's called allopatric speciation. Now, an area where you can see incipient allopatric speciation, again in North America, is around the mountains near California, where there's a group of salamanders that form a partial ring species, where they have subpopulations starting from like the southwest and then heading up north, and then circling around clockwise. And each little subgroup can mate successfully with the neighboring groups until you get right back to the end of the horseshoe, where you get two populations that can't. All that has to happen for that ring species to turn into two species, from the biological definition, is for the members that connect them, for those populations to simply go extinct, which is something that very well may happen. Which means right here in North America, where I'm living, and where Vishanti is living, and where, according to my metrics, something like 52% of my audience is living, we have examples of both sympatric and allopatric speciation ongoing right now. So, there you go, LA. I just did it for you. Congratulations.
Show me a polar bear that's shrinking in size and is becoming a bald eagle.
I'm now rethinking my decision to not have alcohol. That would defy evolution. You can't have a polar bear turn into a bald eagle. Bald eagles are already a group of dinosaurs that have already evolved. You can't have anything else evolve into them, because that's not how evolution works. Evolution works by tinkering with what's already there and then branching out from there, right? You can't branch out back to a previous branch on another set of branches far away. That's not how evolution works. So once again, we have a creationist asking for evidence of evolution in the form of something that would disprove evolution if it were provided, which is the only kind of evidence they ever seem to ask for.
Yeah.
Same thing happens a lot with flirts, right? They'll ask for like, well, if you want me to believe in the globe, let's do this. And it's like, well, the globe doesn't predict that. That would be evidence against the globe if we found that. Yeah, but it would convince me of the globe. Like, oh, okay, cool. Because once again, flat earthers and young earthers, there's really not much difference.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. I mean, and of course, if I say that, the evolutionists, the scientific community, academia, they all turn up their noses.
Yeah, because you're saying crazy things that no one would expect, right? Like, if someone came in and said, look, I think Christianity is completely crazy, and you're like, okay, well, I disagree. Why do you think Christianity is completely crazy? And they're like, because if Christianity were true, then I would expect that the future space Jews should already have been here to start all the wildfires, like Marjorie Taylor Greene said. And instead, we all know that the wildfires were actually caused by the Muslim Brotherhood with their underground mole lasers. You might turn your nose up at that person, because not only does that have nothing to do with Christianity, it's also crazy on the face of it. All of it. And yeah, that's why those academics turn up their nose at L.A. Marzulli, because he comes in with this wild, crazy nonsense that has no resemblance to evolution whatsoever. And then it's like, see? Evolution is silly. But all these academics, they don't pay attention to me. Which is the same thing that Graham Hancock likes to do. It's like, why won't the academics pay attention to me? It's like, they do, you just haven't made your case. Make your case, man. Michael Narum, who's been a member for 2 months, and is at the amniote level, says, tell me you don't understand evolution without saying you don't understand evolution. Yeah, basically. That is LA to a T. And just creationists generally, it's almost impossible to find a creationist who can describe evolution in a way that would get a modern evolutionary biologist to agree that they have adequately explained how evolution works. It's basically impossible.
But the neo-Darwinists know something's up. They know
Neo-Darwinists.
The neo-Darwinists.
Yeah. No more of these Darwinists. LA knows that Darwinists are long gone. Now we have the neo-Darwinists. I'm going to go be an exo-Darwinist. See how that works.
the jig is up. Because the Neo-Darwinists are going, okay, this DNA thing just didn't fall out of the sky. Something had to create it.
Jeez. Okay, so a few things. That's a problem for the origin of life, not a problem for biological evolution per se. Second, there are in fact origin of life researchers who are working on these things, and there are plenty of open questions. Astral Neko Archives with their first super chat says, or for $4.99 says, Bilboing the chat. Well, I do have some skill at Conkers, if you must know. But actually, actually, it is time to Bilbo the chat. It's long past time. Because I'm seeing only 47 likes, but 110 people watching. Which unfortunately does mean that I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve. Come on, everybody, help out. Hit that like button. Let's get to 100 likes. Come on, I know you can do it.
So, where's that something? Well, it can't be God. We'll just leave him.
Look, as far as evolution is concerned, it's perfectly fine for it to be God, right?
Mm-hmm.
Evolution is the theory of evolution is agnostic as to the origin of life. It talks about once you have organisms that can evolve, what happens. How you get them doesn't really matter, right? Just like the germ theory of disease isn't particularly interested on its own in how you got the infection, right? So if someone's like, oh, hey, your cut is infected, does it matter to the treatment exactly what happened for you to get that cut? Not particularly, right? It's not going to change which antibiotics you're going to be prescribed. It doesn't change which kind of like topical ointments might be good for treating that wound. It doesn't matter that much, right? The same thing with the origin of life. It doesn't really matter exactly how the universe formed, right? Was it the Big Bang?
Yeah.
Did God just poof it into existence but with no life, and then natural processes took over and created the first life? I mean, as far as origin of life research goes, that's perfectly fine too. These aren't all like a single idea that's interdependent, right? Now, we do have a story that you can glean from the current hypotheses and theories that are the best supported in science about the whole history of the universe, including life and evolution. But that does not make them logically dependent on each other. Dapper's Invagination Station at All Points West, member for 8 months at the amniote level, says, first, Mothra, the underground Fremen are just Sardaukar in disguise. AIG is a sack of sand trout with an AIG as a bag of dicks emoji. Oh, yes. Man. Yeah, AIG are a bag of sand trout. All right.
out of it. The beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. He was the life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shines in the darkness. And
Okay, man, we get it. You can quote scripture. It's like,
way to memorize
why?
John 1. Hooray! You know the preamble to the
Yeah,
Gospel
really.
of John. Ugh. Pipplepunk, half dog, half canine for $5 says, isn't Neo-Darwinism just the combined theories of Darwinism and Mendelian genetics? Yeah. It's like a century plus old. Yeah, it is. And it's been long superseded by, well, not so much superseded as, it's had much added to it, right? Because Darwinism was basically just natural selection. Adding Mendelian genetics added in a better understanding of how genetics works, as well as the concept of mutation. And so, but now, I mean, we're well past just those two mechanisms, right? We've got like epigenetics, sexual selection. There's ideas like fitness landscapes, genetic drift, neutral variation, neutral evolution, all sorts of stuff. My Unfinished Chapter 1 for $2 says, not only 3 times liked, but 2 times shared. Come on, folks. Oh, yeah, see? If My Unfinished Chapter 1 can like this video 3 times and share it twice, everyone else can do those both at least once. So, yeah. Thank you, My Unfinished Chapter 1. All right, but we're going to take a quick break. It's always hard for me to know when to take a quick break when it's not a drinking stream, because I just go by when I need a drink. So, we're going to take a quick break. You guys can refresh your drinks. That's what I'm going to do. If you need to do any kind of biological stuff, that's fine too. And then we will be right back. So in the meantime, here's the musical stylings of one Beethoven. Okay, we are back. I even unmuted. While we were gone, Savage Pharaoh's favorite Clovis Point Cobra, thank you very much, just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. One went to Alexander Zagrodsky, one went to Laser Fan, one went to Heather Shoggoths Are Smarter Than Roger Coon, one went to The Fallen from Heaven, and the last went to Star Hunter. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it, as I'm hopefully do all those who received gifted memberships. Before we get back into it, I do want to remind everyone, this channel almost entirely depends on the support from you guys directly, whether it be through super thanks, super chats, gifted memberships, purchase memberships. Oh, also, Christopher Sanford just gifted 5 more Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Kristen Mills, Yumao, Mark Rose, Space Dragon, and David Woodmancy. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you are currently not supporting, but you are interested in doing so, or you're just interested in increasing your support, because maybe you just appreciate the channel, or you really enjoy getting early access to videos. I have hours and hours of early access stuff. Like I said earlier, a new 50-minute video just went up for early access today. Or no, I guess it was yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, it was yesterday. Sorry about that. Yesterday. There's a number of great ways. There's the Patreon, which is linked in the description. You can start at just $1 a month. You can go all the way up to 100. You get increasing rewards. You can get a 15% discount if you go annual on Patreon. There's also the channel memberships, which in addition to getting gifted, you can also just choose yourself to have a monthly recurring payment on that. Starts at $1.99. Both of those give you access to the special Discord server, which is the Discord server I in most frequently. I check it daily. I mean, usually even there on like my ostensible days off, just because I like the I like the community there. Right? We have a good time. We send memes. We share news items that we find interesting, science articles, all sorts of stuff. It's a great place. There's a whole bunch of different things. We've got a room for discussion about tabletop RPG stuff. We've got a section for discussing heavy stuff, right? Like if you need to vent or get something heavy off your chest, there's a special section for that, so that people who want to engage with that can, and people who might not be up for that right now, they don't have to. They can just opt to not look into that section. So yeah, we've got a lot of stuff there. But if a monthly or an annual thing isn't for you, that's great. There's also lots of other options. I have a wish list. Vishanti has a wish list that's linked in the description.
Yes, I do.
You can help us out. A lot of the stuff that's in there, at least for me, is mostly just like helping me blow off steam when I'm not working. There's like RPG books, dice, things like that. Although I actually just recently 3D printed some special Star Trek Adventures dice, and it's so cool.
They look very cool.
They are, yeah. I need to paint them at some point, but like I don't want to go and buy paint, so I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So, and of course, there's also just sending super chats or super thanks or anything. And if money is tight for you, or you just are not interested in financially supporting, that's okay too. Just like these videos, share my videos. Those are both things that are free. Watch my videos, maybe a few in a row, right? All of that is stuff that's free that you can do. Asta 1 Marzulli equals 10 Hovens Ryu for $4.99 says, you think that, quote, Neo-Darwinist is the YEC version of Neo, and then puts in, some IPA for National Socialists with a joke. I mean, they certainly seem to use it that way occasionally, although I don't think they would actually agree that Neo-Darwinist is like synonymous with genocidal 20th century regimes. I don't think they think that it's quite that bad. Although they do like to blame 20th century genocidal regimes on evolution, which is weird, given that the leader of said regime was pretty strongly anti-evolution. Now, he wasn't a young Earth creationist in the sense that like Ken Ham would recognize, right? There's definitely a creationist of a different stripe. So yeah, definitely not a Genesis literalist. Or at least there's no evidence that he was a Genesis literalist, but he was definitely a creationist of some kind.
Yeah.
So. All right, here's more LA. We've only got 6 minutes of LA. We can get through 6 minutes. We're going to get through 6 minutes, is what I'm going to say. We're not going to stop until we're done. How about that?
Okay.
Deal. Darkness comprehends it not. We can believe that, which is right there in John, or we can believe in the The theory of evolution.
You mean the thing that actually has mountains, in some cases literal mountains, not just metaphorical mountains, of evidence? LA? I'm going to go with that. I don't think that means you have to reject the theology of, I was going to say 1 John, but I mean John chapter 1. Sorry. Those are different things. 1 John and John 1, not the same. I could have just got it right and not said anything about the fact that I was about to get it wrong. You know that? I didn't have to out myself like that. And yet, here I am. I don't think that evolution is incompatible with the theology of John chapter 1. But, I don't know. I'm not your priest.
Right.
The Neo-Darwinists do not believe in the theory of evolution. They believe in panspermia.
What? I've taken a drink of this just because I don't know. There's not even alcohol in this. I just need to cool something off.
That we were seeded here by an advanced race of extraterrestrials.
Who of the Neo-Darwinists says this, LA? Who is? Do you think that he is taking seriously the dishonestly edited interview between Ben Stein and Richard Dawkins from Expelled No Intelligence Allowed? Because that's where that seems to always go back to. Is they always seem to trace it back to that one thing where Richard Dawkins was asked, basically, could there possibly be any way in which intelligent design is true? And he being attempting to be basically generous to Ben Stein to come up with something that kind of could work and that would not be absurd on its face, came up with panspermia as his answer, right? That and then he was dishonestly edited to make it seem like he is actually advocating for panspermia when he is doing no such thing. Now, look, I'm not someone who feels like I need to defend Richard Dawkins a whole bunch, right? I think the guy's generally an ass. Not a big fan. He's made some pretty good science books here and there. But generally speaking, I don't think anyone has done more to make the discourse between non-religious people and religious people more soured or more just stupid on the side of the non-religious people. He's just been a net negative for the theology of agnosticism, or not theology, sorry, a philosophy of agnostics and atheists the world over. He's a transphobe to a very high degree. I don't have a lot of nice things to say about Richard Dawkins, basically. However, that does not mean I think he should be dishonestly edited and then used as a straw man to pretend that panspermia is the leading idea among non-creationists. Because it's not. So, yeah. Anyway.
I'll be getting into that later on this week in another episode of our UFO update. Hey folks, I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. Welcome to On the Trail of a Nephilim. I just want to thank John Lamore, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but he sent me this wonderful little clip from...
Does he mean that there's a hyperlink to a video clip on that page?
I don't even know.
I hope so. I really hope so. Because that would remind me of the Standing for Truth books that included truncated hyperlinks as sources for claims.
Yes.
So that when you have a print book in your hand, and if you get the color edition, the hyperlinks are still blue. And my favorite was that when I typed on his community post, I was like, hey, how do I use the hyperlinks in your book? As an attempt to politely say, hey, maybe you should do some work to fix this. His response was just say, well, just press them really hard. Oh. Thanks, Donnie.
Okay.
I was trying to help you, but I guess you don't want it. Just got it.
A book called An Autobiography of Buffalo Bill, Colonel W. F. Cody. And I think you'll find this really interesting because the written accounts are there from the 1900s into the 20th century.
Yeah, but are the physical... Because, by the way, in case you aren't great at French, this section is called, the Marzulli and the giant bones, or the bones of giants. Do you think he actually knows of any physical, actual evidence? Because anyone can write anything, right? Like, I could write now...
He thinks a lot of things are evidence, he just is incorrect about it.
Yeah. Savage Pharaoh's favorite Clovis point of Cobra. I just love that. For $5 says Richard Dawkins is the Richard Carrier of understanding religion. Oof.
Ooh.
Yeah, I can't really disagree. He's outstandingly bad at, astoundingly, that's the word I wanted. He is astoundingly bad at the philosophy of religion, Richard Dawkins is. It's almost embarrassing. And the thing is that because he's a little bit edgy with it, he caught on with all the the terminally online atheist edgelord bros who became atheists mostly because they wanted to stick it to their parents back in the early 2000s, and not because they read Graham Oppie and became convinced of his arguments against the existence of a deity. And then they also just kind of adopted Richard Dawkins' version of the atheist agnostic theist thing, which doesn't actually make any sense if you think about it for much more than about 2 minutes. Yeah. He's been just a drag on the philosophy of religion for decades now, and I'm really, really sick of it. Yeah. Also, of course, Richard Dawkins just assumes that religion is a synonym for Christianity. And specifically for the types of Christianity that he's most familiar with, too, right? You think
that's what I've noticed about a lot of the, terminally online internet atheists are religion this, and the world would be better without religion that, and I'm like, just say Christianity.
Yeah.
That's what you mean. Just say it, because that's the only one you know about.
And they only know about a certain subset of Christianity. If you ask them how, the ethno-religious group of Christians in Kerala, Indian, comport themselves and what their religion is like, they would have no frickin' clue.
No clue.
Not an idea at all. And yet those people exist. They're right there. You can go see them. Say that like it's a tourist destination to go see this group of people.
Ask them about the Druze.
Goodness. The Druze don't even know how the Druze operate most of the time.
God,
you know I'm right.
I just finished watching On the Trail of a Nephilim, episode 194, entitled Giants Found.
Series.
I thought you might...
194 is impressive, though. I don't have any series that are up to 194. Kent with Bent's getting there, though.
I find this interesting. There was another reference to giants from an autobiography of Buffalo Bill Cody. This is really cool, folks. So I'm going to read it right here.
That's not the Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, everybody. Just in case you're wondering.
That's why he said Buffalo Bill Cody.
Right, yeah. That's to key you in. That's a different guy. This one is presumably not skinning people. Presumably. I can't say that for certain. He might have a little dog, though.
Maybe.
And what he did is he searched the text for the word thigh, and this is what came up.
Weird, but
While we were in the Sandhills...
Thigh. Like the body part. Yeah. Okay. Pebblepunk asks, what are the Druze? The Druze are a Abrahamic ethno-religion from the Middle East that grew out of a sect of Islam. And they are an esoteric religion, and they do not accept converts. There was a period when they accepted converts, and then because they believe in reincarnation, they believe that apparently during the openness to conversion, everyone was offered the chance to convert to the Druze religion. And so now all the people who did are just being reborn as Druze through continual reincarnation. And so the only way to become a Druze is to be...
endogamous.
Yeah. So the only way to be a Druze is to be born into a Druze family. And Druze who marry outside the religion, those children are not Druze. So, and they're a significant minority, especially in Syria and Israel, and a few other places. I think there's some in Jordan, that little area like the Levant. And their symbol is like a multicolored star. Each color has a particular meaning. They are an esoteric religion, so their inner teachings aren't taught to most of the people in the Druze religion. You have to be at a certain level of initiation to get those upper level teachings. And also they mostly just mind their own business and, have their own festivals and whatnot, and are generally just inoffensive neighbors to everyone. There's not a whole lot of bad things to say
Religion
about
for Breakfast has a great video on the Druze. I highly recommend. Yep.
Also, it's Druze normally, not Drews. Yeah. So if you're looking to Google it. As to 1 Marzulli equals 10 Hovens review for $9.99 says, I literally showed someone the other day that there are 14 major religions that aren't Abrahamic. Congratulating them on debunking a quarter of religion. Got no comments. Yeah, also, most people who complain about Abrahamic religions can't name more than 4.
I
And
wouldn't
yet
even
there's-
give them 4. I usually only grant them 3 because
Yeah.
that's generally how many most people think there are.
Yep. Yeah, you get, well, there's Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. It's like, oh, what about the Mandaeans?
Mandaeans.
What about the Druze?
Rastafari.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
the Yazidis? No? They don't?
The Yazidis.
Yeah. Guptu 3 for
Crypto 457 says there is no Dana, only Marzulli.
Nice. Guptu 3 for $2 says Buffalo Bill Cody, no relation. All right, here we go.
Shouting the Niobrara County, the Pawnee Indians brought into camp some very large bones, one of which the surgeon of the expedition pronounced to be the thigh bone of a human being.
You know what that sounds like to me is someone found a mastodon bone. Because that's a thing that exists. And my guess is that surgeon wasn't a paleontologist. So, yeah. Do you think LA is going to even consider the possibility that it was a misidentified mammoth femur?
Absolutely not.
Yep, I agree
As
with
for
you.
you, 1 Marzulli equals 10 Hovens says that they literally went to a Bahai Sunday school.
Oh, cool.
I've been to a Bahai Temple, the one in Chicago, and it was very beautiful and had I think the lower level, not quite a basement, but it had a sort of museum type of deal where you could walk through and look at all the history of the Baha'i and learn about the Baha'u'llah and all that stuff.
That's pretty
Very
cool.
informative.
But remember, everyone,
And I actually did sit in the sanctuary for a while and kind of just use that time for reflection and meditation and so forth.
Nice. But remember, I'm a
Which
Bob
is what they
mythicist,
encourage.
which means that, of course, I think that the Baha'i is all just based on crazy nonsense because the Bob never existed in the first place. Yep. I'm on record.
Is there an equivalent cosmic sperm theory for the Bob?
You know, I don't know. I don't know enough about Bobism. By the way, though, I did say that we were pretty far away from the next special avatar, but we're actually more than halfway there, so we could do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
The
Okay.
Indians said that these bones were those of a race of people who long ago had lived in that country.
Okay, do you think that, I'm going to go with a native person,
Mm-hmm.
themselves was a trained comparative anatomist who could recognize a mammoth thigh or a mastodon thigh? Because
Chances are low.
Yeah, I'm not even saying that this is what happened. I'm just saying, here's an alternate, more plausible explanation. Why is my explanation not better than human giant? Yeah, because that's all I'm offering, right? I'm like, this is
Reasons.
more plausible. That's it.
They said these
Yeah.
people were 3 times the size of a man of the present day. So let's say, a Native American's like 5 foot 6 inches, whatever. So you're looking at basically 14 feet, 12 to 14 feet. I mean,
What?
Hey, that kind of sounds like the kind of height you might reach if you had a very big mastodon around.
Nah,
that's really,
giant.
Yeah, definitely a giant human, though.
really big. Big, huge Nephilim.
Also, I know that he can't hear me, and it's likely that he won't ever watch this video. But hey, LA, Lynn, my man, homie, brother. The microphone should be sitting in front of where you're speaking, not to the side.
Yeah.
Just pro tip there.
Hey, you know what? Video production is hard. Also, I'm not actually sure that that's even plugged in, because I see a cord wrapped around it.
Yeah, it looks like the cord's wrapped around the bottom.
I'm now curious
Wherever he
about
is in his super secret bunker in the,
in the mountains.
Santa Monica Mountains, I think
Yeah.
he says, which is out here. And I'm like, dude, it's not that secret. You're not in danger. What is wrong with you, man?
Renee is 1 square away from blackout on the bingo card.
Good God. Yeah, this is one of those reasons why, I tell you guys that I dunk on this guy so much because his quotient of just preposterous claims is
Oh, yeah.
so high.
The only problem is it takes a lot of prep work to respond to him because I have to cut out so much waffly nonsense. Heather, Shoggoths are smarter than Roger Coon for $2 says, I think Bob is from the Church of the Subgenius. No, not Bob. Bob. There's a different vowel there.
B-A-B.
Yeah, Bob.
Not
Bob. Yeah, it's less rounded, more open. Goop23 for $2 says, so you're saying they might not be giants? With the not in parentheses. Yes, I am saying that.
I'm not making this stuff up. We know that it's there.
I don't think you are. Like, the thing is, I don't think he's making this up. Right? I'm perfectly happy to say that this was in Buffalo Bill Cody's autobiography. It's just not on its own evidence of giant humans, because there are other more plausible explanations, even if the story is true. Right? That's it. Like, if someone comes to me and says, oh man, I totally saw Bigfoot. And I'm like, well, where'd you see him? And they're in a place where there's like a lot of black bears. Black bears happen to sometimes stand on their feet, like their hind feet, I mean. And, you know, they can walk bipedally with their plantigrade feet. So they kind of look like humans. It's like, yeah, it was off in the distance. It was this dark, furry shape. It was walking like a human. Yeah, okay, maybe you saw an ape man. Also, maybe you just mistook a black bear. Which of those is more likely? It's the black bear. So until you have conclusive evidence that says, no, it wasn't a black bear, it was definitely an ape man, I'm going to go ahead and say, no, I believe you think that you saw something. I believe you believe it was a Bigfoot. I just think it's more likely it's a black bear. That's it. That is the reasonable, skeptical thing to do, right? That is the intellectually honest thing to do. What is the most likely explanation for this? So one, we can't actually say for certain whether or not this story is true, right? But let's just say it is. A much more likely explanation is that someone found a mastodon femur, which is a thing we know you can find all over the place in North America. Not literally everywhere, but in many places. So, yeah. Why isn't it a mastodon femur?
But everything has been swept away. Let's continue.
If everything's been swept away, then why is it still in Buffalo Bill Cody's autobiography?
Hey, and if, there's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated, as he claims in the opening to, like, every video that he does, why are we reading about it in Buffalo Bill Cody's...
Yeah, just out in the open.
Autobiography.
It's not like it's not like he had to, like, dig up, like, a copy of, like, some book of ancient lore that was underneath, like, a corpulent vampire's castle or something. This is something. This is at the bookstore. Didn't go
digging around in somebody's attic and find a handwritten manuscript in a trunk.
It's just in a book. Goodness.
Well, I just love these. I just love these stories. The Indians said the bones were those of a race of people who long ago had lived in that country. They said these people were 3 times the size of a man of the present day. That they were so swift.
Takes that uncritically.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Native American legends are always literally true. Always.
Ah, yes, I forgot.
That's why we know that there's so much creepy stuff going on over in Utah at Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, it's definitely not a tourist trap.
Definitely not.
And strong, that they could run by the side of a buffalo and taking the animal in one arm could tear off a leg and eat it as they ran. Now that's, I mean, you hear these stories.
Entertaining.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a cool story at all that might not actually be based entirely in fact.
There's actually someone put up a JPEG of that.
What? Someone put up a JPEG of a giant tearing the leg off of a living
running
bison?
along.
I would like to see that JPEG. That
you
actually
realize
sounds
we
fun.
had digital cameras back in Buffalo Bill Cody's day.
Oh my goodness.
How's that data storage working out?
Oh yeah, You got some nice 1800s data cards.
It was everything was stored in like a lossless format, because wow.
Well, not if it's stored into JPEGs. JPEG is full of loss.
Yeah, really, they're lossy as heck.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite things is flat earthers confusing JPEG compression for photo manipulation. Yeah. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And all you had to do to show that that's what that
James
is.
Duncan got a blackout, so did Asta Ryu.
Nice.
Wow.
Asta 1 Marzulli equals 10 Hovens Ryu for $1.99 says, we don't talk about flesh trotters. Godzilla. Flesh trotter sounds gross.
Some artist drew it based on this oral tradition.
Oh, an artist drew it and then for some reason saved it as a JPEG. Just save it as a PNG, man. It's less lossy. This is a new one. What's PLN? That is a new currency for me.
Healing.
PLN? What is that? I don't even know.
Tell you what, you read the super chat and I'll look it up real quick.
Okay. Oh, it's the Polish zloty. Zloty? I'm not sure. But anyway, for 25...
I do not speak Polish. I will not even attempt.
Yeah. Also, hey, guys, why are you spelling your Slavic language in the Latin alphabet? What's up with that? Anyway, for 25 Polish zlotys, I'm going to go with that. My first super chat ever. Great work, guys, with a big purple heart. Now, here's Polish for AIG is a huge bag of broken fallacy. AIG jest wielkim worem zwa... I don't remember what the capital I with the line is. I'm just going to give it a... Manich Falusuf. Thank you. I hope that that was approximately right. I'm sure that I got some of the qualities wrong. Plus, I always forget what the lowercase I with the line is. I never remember that vowel. I know it's just one of the standard IPA vowels, but I've never learned. But yeah,
again, hey Poland, why are you spelling a Slavic language with the Latin alphabet?
To be fair, Alexander here used the IPA.
Yes, I'm just saying, hey Poland.
Oh, well, I mean, the actual answer is that they became Catholic, and so the Catholic Church introduced the Latin alphabet. That's the actual answer. Yeah. Just like Romania became Eastern Orthodox despite being like the only Romance language speaking country to not be Roman Catholic.
I guess they had to balance the force. If you gain Romania, you lose Poland or something.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like the Patriarch of Constantinople and the Pope, and they're like, okay, look, we'll take Poland, but you can have Romania. How about that? And like, yeah, okay, that seems fine. That seems fair. Savage Pharaoh's favorite Clovis Point Cobra for $5 says, a man of the modern day is 3 times the intelligence of L.A. Marzulli. Also, JPEGs don't count. It needs to be PDF to count as evidence. Okay. We've got a PDF supremacist here. Yes. Actually, I don't know how much loss is involved in PDF image compression. I imagine there's some. Border Barbecue member for 12 months, who's at the annual level, says, wow, a year now. Like the video, also, the tunicate wall needs to be formed. No, that's too many pelagic tunicates. You guys are ruining the stream. This is disgusting, and I object. Whose idea was it to create something as horrible and disgusting as a pelagic tunicate emoji?
I don't know.
That guy probably deserves a punch in the face. Goodness.
Yeah.
From Native Americans. We've heard this before. So why
believes it uncritically.
Yes, of course. Some guy said it to Buffalo Bill, so it must be true. Oh, okay.
Native Americans just sort of invent this out of nowhere.
People invent all sorts of crap all the time. Dude, L.A. Marzulli, are you aware of the fiction genre called fantasy? Where people just make stuff up and then put it in a book? It's like he's never met another human in his entire life. But I know that's not true because I've seen footage of him talking to other humans.
Yeah.
So he should know that humans sometimes do make things up. Okay.
That there's a race of giants. Why is it that every tribe from the East Coast to the West Coast, including the Chumash out here, have that...
Oh, well, if the Chumash didn't have this legend, I wouldn't have believed it. But now that I know that they do, that makes all the difference.
Wow.
I mean, the Chumash are well known for their completely sober, never exaggerated storytelling about all things, all the time, always. Yeah, that's... Oh, wait. No, they're just another group of people, like all group of people who have their own legends that aren't literally true. Like, literally all of the humans. Goodness.
Nah.
Do you think L.A. Marzulli thinks that he needs to watch out for, like, fairies if he ever goes to, like, Greenland or something?
He might think that, the fairies are, like, demons.
Of course.
But then again, Jaime Maussan sold him a definitely real fairy, so...
That is a good point. I did kind of forget about that while I was asking that question.
Oh, I'm never
yes.
gonna forget that.
The monkey that was sewn onto a bat. That LA just uncritically accepted as being an actual fairy.
Or limbs, mounting sticks, and the was it the taxidermy glue was
Yep,
all
the glue was
visible.
still
Like,
there,
yeah,
yep.
it's fine. Totally
Rachel Gregory just joined the channel at the tetrapod level. Thank you very much, everyone. Send some 1 sessile tunicates and 2 some tetrapods to welcome Rachel into the memberships. All right, here we go.
Have stories about 9, 10, 12 footers. Let's continue. These giants, said the Indians.
You sure you don't mean
did not
fish, LA?
Yeah, maybe they're just talking about sturgeon.
deny the existence of a great spirit. When they heard the thunder or saw the lightning, they laughed and declared that they were greater than either of those. This so displeased the
Jack's Analysis for £5 says, some support for your efforts. Happy New Year. Thank you very much, Jack's Analysis. So far, the New Year's not so bad. Strawberry Vein, who's been a member for 8 months and is at the Die Apps level, thank you very much, says, come on guys, people don't just make stuff up. Yes, of course not. No one has ever been creative. Humans are well known for their lack of creativity.
great spirit that he caused the deluge. Stop right there. Why is it that in every single culture across the globe, there are stories of a great flood?
Well, that's not true. Not every culture has a story of a great flood. That's just factually incorrect. But also, cultures tend to have stories about things that happen. And then they exaggerate those stories. So you might get a story about a great earthquake if you live in a place where there's lots of earthquakes. Or a great flood if you're in a place that experiences regular floods. Because exaggeration is one of the easiest ways to make a story more dramatic, right? It's like, if we were to go back to, say, a biblical allusion, right? Suppose that the Philistines had warriors, some of whom were rather tall, and that's why they became powerful warriors in the Philistine army. And then some, people from the Hebrew kingdom went into conflict with them, and they were like, gee, these are really tall guys. And then later on, they went back and they told their war stories about the, really tall Philistine warriors. And then that got exaggerated down the years until eventually, well, maybe David, but maybe also someone else might have killed a giant Philistine who was, was it 12 cubits tall or something? I don't remember how tall he's supposed to be.
Something.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, that's impossible, though. Asta1 Marzulli equals 10 Hoven's review for $4.99 says, yes, my story of the world being painted by a Catboy god is totally factual. All hail the Catboy god. I mean, I've heard more boring myths. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Because it's true. Because the biblical prophetic narrative, what we have in our Bibles, is absolutely true. It is the Word of God.
There's so much of it that's verifiably not literally true, though. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you whether or not you should believe the Bible is the Word of God. You deal with that aspect of faith on your own, right? It's not my job. However, if you want to tell me that it's all literally historically true, we just know that's not true. Right? It can't be true because some parts of it contradict other parts of it. There is no one coherent narrative that follows the entire book through that you could even follow. There are bits that contradict each other, like who killed Goliath. There's 2 people in the Bible who killed Goliath.
Yeah. Elchanan is one of them.
Elchanan and David. Who killed Goliath? There's no answer from the Bible. There's 2 contradictory answers. So we know that even if we couldn't prove that some of it is definitely false, we would know some of it had to be, because Goliath couldn't have been killed by both of them. At least not according to the story that we get for the death of Goliath. So, yeah. It is trivially easy to show that the Bible cannot literally all be true. Because even without going to history or science.
Kip Davis in the chat is like, besides, with how much water there is on the earth and how important it was for people to settle on the water, why is it surprising that so many of them have flood myths?
Yeah, it's not surprising.
He says, the Bible is the word of Kip.
Kip, I don't think you wrote the Bible. As much as I like you, Kip Davis, I don't think you wrote the Bible. But hey, I mean, I'm open to being shown to be wrong about that.
There was a deluge. Why did the deluge occur? I'm glad you asked.
I didn't, but okay.
Because of the Nephilim. And I've talked about.
Okay.
So this is, that's not in the Bible there, LA. That's in like the Bible fanfic known as First Enoch, right? I guess technically it's in the Bible if you're like in Ethiopia or Eritrea. So, okay, fair enough.
About this before. Let me get a slurp here.
But wait, isn't he a Protestant?
Yeah.
So it's definitely not in his Bible.
Nope.
Okay. And from my understanding, he's pretty hostile to non-Protestant versions of Christianity. So,
Yeah, he has way too many videos on like the alleged apparition at Fatima, all of the like revelations given to the kids allegedly. He can't stand it. Weeping statues, man, that is a favorite topic of his.
Is it really demons? The weeping statues?
Aliens or demons and it's just.
Trailmix for $5 says, fun fact, pelagic tunicates are technically tetrapods. No. It's therefore acceptable to use them when Dapper says to send tetrapods. Mothra. No, that's not true. Pelagic tunicates are definitely
Why they put fact in quotation marks.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if LA's just making up facts.
You know what? Yeah, if LA can do it, I guess Trailmix can too. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, basically, as Asta 1 Marzulli equals 10 Hoven for you points out, yeah, this is basically the wonders of world building. Like, this could be an interesting setting for, like, an alternate history fantasy novel or something. Maybe.
But I'll state it again here because it's absolutely relevant to the story. These giants said the Indians denied the existence of a great spirit.
Yes, I cut there because he went on and waffled a bunch. Sorry.
This so displeased the great spirit that he caused a deluge. The water rose higher and higher.
Actually, that right there sounds like a story that is the result of contact between Europeans bringing their Bible stories and the local native tribes. Which is another problem that we actually have, is a lot of the stories that we get that sound suspiciously biblical, we cannot actually date to pre-contact between Christians and these native populations. And if there's one thing a lot of Christians like to do, it's they like to tell the stories from their Bible to everyone they meet. So, yeah. Vandalian 1998 for $5 says, the contradictions in the Bible are totally explained by the writers coming from different parts of the multiverse. Citation needed. No, I mean, hey, maybe that's what it is. It's the Bible is just a record of ancient Mandela effect. I mean, can you prove that it wasn't Elchanan in one reality and then in a different reality it was David, and that they're just recording their memories from having shifted between realities as a result of the Mandela effect? I can't prove that's not what happened. I
can't prove it.
Yeah. Maybe. Also, it was always the Berenstain Bears.
So it drove these proud giants from the low ground to the hills and then to the mountains. At last, even the mountaintops were submerged and the mammoth men were drowned. But the Omega conspiracy...
By the way, I put that in there. He spent like 2 or 3 minutes at least just going on about how when he was younger, he wondered why God was such a dick. And then apparently the Omega conspiracy cleared it up for him, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's actually where the story about he and his girlfriend breaking up and her moving out and stuff, that's how that started.
Mm-hmm.
It started with that whole story, and then he's sitting alone in his now mostly empty apartment, reading the Bible and getting to like Genesis 7 and wondering why God's such a dick. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I don't care about L.A. Marzulli's struggles in his faith. It's not of interest to me. DM pour out one vegan nog for my homie's wing for $2 says, Goliath was a zombie confirmed, Gojira. Sure, why not, right?
Yeah.
Gave me the answers I was looking for about the flood, about the judgment, about why God did what he did, about the seed war, about the commingling of the seed from Genesis 3:15, which manifests then in Genesis 6. Folks, the Nephilim were on the earth and
that's days. Right. He thinks that that Nephilim did human biological experimentation.
Of course. Yeah, so genetic manipulation, and that's why God had to start over, because I guess...
And that's why there's depictions of, like, half human, half animal gods and stuff.
Ah, yes. So does that mean that, like, Noah had the pure bloodline that God needed to preserve?
Yes.
that doesn't have any kind of like supremacist or racist
Oh no, there's
overtones
no
at all.
connotations to that
Mm-mm.
whatsoever. It's definitely not racist and eugenicist and no.
Yeah, that whole pure
None of
blood
that.
thing definitely has no nothing questionable about that. All on the up and up.
Yep.
And also, afterward, when the sons of God took human women, went into them, had children by them, these were the men of renown. It's in our Bibles, and if we don't understand...
It's only kind of in your Bible. It's...
like,
I mean, it's in the
1%
Ethiopian
of
Bible.
that was in your Bible.
Right. More of it is in the Ethiopian Bible, but there's also nothing about, like, genetic engineering hybrids in there either. So, yeah. Savage is reminding us to wrap it before you tap it. Yes, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Stay safe out there, everybody.
Genesis 3:15.
This purpose says the C-word sounds like a 40K fanfic. It does.
Yeah. Actually, it could just be a straight up 40K novel. Those things, many of those novels sound like fanfics as you're reading them. So
yeah.
Yeah, 40K has a big, like, it's got a big spread in, like, the quality of the prose that comes out of that.
We don't understand the rest of the biblical prophetic narrative. So the reason why I'm saying this
LA, you don't
is
either,
because...
but okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, is LA, like, imports all of these completely extra biblical ideas into his interpretation of biblical prophecy, which were definitely not in the mind of any of the authors. So, yeah.
Native Americans talk about the flood. It's everywhere.
No, they talk about various floods, right?
No, they didn't.
They did not talk about any flood that's
goodness.
reasonably identifiable as the biblical flood. Like, there's one flood story that's just an etiology for the creation of the Grand Canyon. Also, Strawberry, visible taxidermy glue vein. Oh. I love that is such, it's in this context, it's such an obvious dunk on L.A. Marzulli, but for most random people on YouTube, that would just be a completely incomprehensible nickname right there. Strawberry Visible Taxidermy Glue Vein. For $10, says, God's been trying to reveal the truth of the multiverse to us the whole time. The Nephilim are just humans from a universe where everything is 3 times bigger. Oh, I love it. Thank you. Goodness.
Where you can go to Tibet, they've got a flood story.
Oh, right. I was going to talk about the etiology for the Grand Canyon. I think it's the Supai Native Americans, although it might be one of the other ones that live in like the Grand Canyon area. They have a myth about a flood that happens, and one of their mythic heroes is woken up because, you know, his home is flooding a bit and he's getting wet. And so he goes out and the entire area is just covered in water. So he takes like basically a farming implement, right? Like a big stick with a spike on the end. And he drives it into the ground. And the ground splits open and some of the water falls into that. And then he keeps doing it until a huge hole in the ground opens up, and that's the Grand Canyon. It's just an etiology for the existence of the Grand Canyon. But I've heard creationists use that as an example of a flood legend that shows how true Noah's flood is. It's like, yeah, or maybe they were trying to explain a gigantic and otherwise somewhat mysterious hole in the ground with water at the bottom. Maybe
yeah,
it's
that sounds like unwelcome nuance.
Yeah, it totally does.
Chumash Indians out here, they've got a flood story. The flood...
Remember, everybody, if the Chumash says it, it must be true.
Yes.
Was real. Giants roamed the land before the flood and after the flood. Let's finish this up. After the flood subsided, the Great Spirit came to the conclusion that he had made men too large and powerful. He therefore corrected his mistake by creating a race of the size and strength of the men of the present day.
That doesn't even line up with your Nephilim mythology, where the regular people are the original people, and then the fallen angels come and breed with them to create the Nephilim. This is completely the opposite of what L.A. Marzulli thinks. And, like, is he just not noticing this problem? Like, how does he read that and not notice that it's the exact opposite of his idea? I don't
know.
Man.
This is the reason the Indians told
ridiculous.
us that the man of modern times is small and not like the giants of old. The story has been handed down among the Pawnee for generations, but what is its origin, no man can say.
I mean, it sounds like the Pawnee might have found some big femurs from now extinct animals and been like, gee, those are big. Must have been giants. And then came up with a myth to explain why there used to be, but aren't now giants. I don't know. I mean, that seems more plausible than there are otherwise unevidenced giants who lived in North America who died in an also unevidenced deluge created by God to stop their genetic experiments. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe LA's ideas are actually the much, much more plausible option.
I just absolutely love stories like this.
I mean, to be fair, it's a cool story. I like
Yeah.
I like the whole like giants running along bison and then just grabbing like a drumstick off of one. Like it's an interesting visual like scene there. That doesn't make it true, you know. I like Star Trek too. I don't think there's actual Klingons out there.
Because they are just...
Of course, if there are, I'll be able to talk to them. So take that, everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Klingon Holvijat.
They're just so incredible because they point back to a hidden history.
All right, well, there it is, everybody. Whoops, hit the wrong button.
Wow.
Yeah. So we went through 4 videos. Now, if you were to actually stitch all of those videos together, it would be something like, I think it's somewhere close to an hour worth of content. But we actually only went through about 30-ish minutes because about half of any one of his videos is just complete nonsense, like shilling products, going on rambling stories that would make Abe Simpson proud. Just complete, just nonsense. Savage Pharaoh's favorite Clovis Point Cobra for $5 says, but Kent Hovind told me that sauropods are the only animals with big bones. Well, you might be shocked to hear this, but Kent Hovind is wrong about virtually everything. It's hard to actually find something that he's right about, honestly. That's why we drink when he gets things right. Unfortunately, we did not hit the new avatar, so the next video I make will not be Mickey Mouse unless we get a whole lot in on Tuesday, but that's okay. I will still be working on the Mickey Mouse avatar. Eventually, I will have a video where my avatar is just Mickey Mouse, and there's nothing that Disney can do about it because of the public domain. Eventually. How soon it is, it's up to all of you. So, Vishanti, do you have anything that you want to announce about anything upcoming?
No, I'm about to have a lot of spare time that I didn't before.
Maybe you can get that video done.
Yeah.
The one you've been promising for over a year now.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know.
At one point, I believed in this video. Now, I'm a little bit more skeptical of if it's actually going to happen. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a look at what is coming up on this channel in the next week or so. Okay, so on Tuesday, we are going to be having the next Kent with Bent. That is Kent with Bent 128, I believe. Yes, titled It's Christmas Again? Because it will, in fact, be Old Calendar Christmas. So, I'm keeping the Christmas set. Mostly because I like the snow. I really like that snow effect. So, I want to use it as much as I can. Then on the 10th, that'll be the day after, I'm going to be having a talk with a flat earther named Michael, along with Jackson Wheat. So that will be at, let me double check. I think that is at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Yes, that is correct. That is when that will be. That'll be on the 10th. Then on the 11th, it's going to be a busy week this next week. On the 11th, Doug's Amazing Fabrication, the movie, will be premiering at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you come to that, buckle up, bring a snack, bring a drink. It'll be 2.5 hours or so, a little bit more, because it is a whole compilation of the entire Doug's Amazing Fabrication video series that I did. Then on Saturday, I am not positive what is happening. It'll probably be another Dapper Reacts, but I'm not sure what to. I will discuss with Vishanti whether or not she would like to be there. So,
okay.
Yeah. And it could also be a Gish with Vish if we decide to do another Vish talk. I do have another, Gish talk. I do have another Gish talk lined up that we could do.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll talk about that. And there will be something on a week from today at this time slot that will probably involve me and Vishanti, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a promise, but it's probable. So, yeah. And other than that, if you are a member or a patron, I'm going to be heading over to my Discord into the general voice chat, and we're going to be watching the final 4 episodes of Power Rangers Time Force. So, I hope that all of you have a safe rest of your weekend, and if you're interested in some Power Rangers Time Force, head over there, as long as you're a patron or a channel member. Other than that, we're getting out of here. We finished early, slightly.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
How about that?
So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for all your support, for all your shares, for all your likes. Go forth and be awesome to each other.
Yeah, be excellent to each other.
Yeah, that too. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Phil Ravara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Denny5252, Eleron Teller, Horseflesh, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostock Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Monkey They Them, Robert Carpenter, Sphincter of Doom, Vollus, Strawberry Vein, and Ita V. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.